It's my pleasure today to bring a CEO who has made an impact on me just because of her presence. We run into each other in the hall at WPO Forum, and Hetal, you just exude warmth and generosity. And the more I read about your company, the more I understand why, because it's a homegrown talent development firm or workforce solutions company. It sounds like you are founded on principles of really creating solutions for people to get in the right job and to feel like they have a place in the world. And maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I would love for you to introduce a little bit about how you started back in 1995. What inspired you to create this company in the first place? And then we'll talk about how you were able to achieve the phenomenal growth that we talk about in the Women Presidents Organization.
Well, thank you very much, Donna. And I'm really grateful and humbled to be here today with you on this podcast. Wow, 30 years of our journey. Where do I begin, right? It's interesting when you start to think back and reflect on how you got started and where did that journey lead you to, and how did you get to where you are today? And what were some of the roadblocks, and how did we really navigate through some of those circumstances? But here's what I'm going to say, starting from the beginning, right? My husband and I started this company 6 months before we got married, and we're both technology experts at heart, right? And so we're builders by passion and design, and we were always very much focused on it when we saw a problem in the market or in the industry or in our environment where we felt like, hey, there's an idea here that we can solve because that's is where we can have an impact. So, Donna, I think what I'll tell you is our company really did start and did get formed with a thought around how can we drive meaningful impact in the society today, and leveraging our small positioning, our small areas of experience and expertise. How can we bring and add value? And so it did start initially in the areas of education for children in the math and science curriculum, and we were developing 3D animated curriculums
Mhm.
for the school. We offered it for the after school care for free because we realized our children, when they were younger in the elementary school, that their time was being unproductive, and we felt what a great way to teach children by creating gamified uh, I would say in a gamified fashion, right? How do we help them to make it more fun and learn at the same time during this after school time when they're really done with doing their homework, or just hanging out until their parents are ready to pick them up from school. And so it's really started with that. And then simultaneously, we were working with the corporates, helping them to find great talent for some of their project resource needs in the IT space. And so we did come across also various different areas of opportunities through that venture, both of those ventures. From the education side, what we got introduced to was school with special needs. And that's when we really felt really passionate, where we said, there's a lot of focus around mainstream kids, but the special need kids, they were initially being taught with flashcards. And so we said, this is a great opportunity to introduce technology and to help them develop their skills faster, and so that they can too feel independent or have that self dignity, or even be able to feel purpose in their life, right? So those were some of the areas where we saw great opportunity. So we started developing, working with a school nearby us in Princeton with children with autism, and to really digitize their curriculum. And so that journey itself also brought us to when we found that those children, when they became 21 and older, um, the whole system went away, and the
Oh,
parents had this anxiety and this feeling of what's going to happen to their kids now, right?
yeah.
And what we really did see is that there was some incredible talent that existed, but it was unseen. And so while we're working with large enterprises, helping them with fulfilling the contingent roles in various different categories, not just IT, but clinical, scientific, administrative, light industrial roles, so various different roles, we saw a missing gap here. We said, why? What is this? What is preventing this connection to happen? So we looked into it and then we decided to bridge this gap and really help corporations see and tap into this untapped talent for
Right.
their organization, right? And this was back in, I would say, 2014. And during this experiences, there were lots of ups and downs. I would say there are things that times when you feel like, oh, this is not working, we're on the wrong track, or we were actually just very early in the stages of where the market was ready to adopt some of our technology solutions that we were designing and developing. And then we upsides where, we would enter some competition. We entered a Verizon's powerful competition where if you had a solution that impacts the society globally, we
Uh-huh.
won in third category in third place in the education category, $500,000 seed money. So in those moments, you feel energized. You feel like, okay, you are on the right track. You are in a path where you're driving some impactful solutions in the market that is going to be meaningful for our society.
Nice.
So that would keep us going, obviously. And then, of course, our revenue generating business around the staffing and the workforce solutions kept us going as well to help
Right.
continue to follow our passion and follow in the areas of investing our time, resources to make that designing and developing solutions for individuals with neurodiversity and autism. And so, what that really did bring us back was in the areas of our core business, which is staffing, and driving programs and solutions where corporations can really tap into the solution to these talent pool. And it accelerated during COVID when the demand rose, where
Right.
they actually started to realize the missing opportunity here. And today, if you see a lot of large organizations have many programs and they're more adapting to hiring individuals with neurodiversity and autism, and there's still, a lot of work to be done here, but you see a lot more, a lot more organizations embracing this and not having a myth around, okay, how are they going to be able to do the work, all the different complexity that the questions, the uncertainties that existed in the past
Yeah.
has slightly been removed now, not just from solutions like this, but also organizations like Disability In, and there are many advocacy groups that have worked really hard to kind of push the needle in this space. And of course, companies like JP Morgan Chase, whom we work with, and J&J's of the world, who
Yeah.
really did partner with us to really help drive the solution for their organization,
Nice.
and really did partner with us. Accenture's of the world partnered with us. So when I think about, one of your questions around what led to this extraordinary growth that qualified us for the WPO fastest 50th, right? And in my definition, Donna, I always feel that the growth and success is relative to how you define it. For some people, fastest growth could be measured by the revenue. And some organizations may define fastest growth by impact. And I am really proud to say that we get acknowledged and recognized by organizations like WPO, Entrepreneur of the Year, where we became finalists, where they're really looking at how we're driving impact in the society
Nice.
and really creating that growth opportunity and growing our organization ourselves, because staffing, I would say it's a commodity business, right? Let's face it.
Yeah.
However, this passion and this area where we dove into the solutions really did make us very unique again amidst all of our competitors and other firms who play in the same space. But
Right.
we're not just a staffing company. We're a company that drives meaningful solutions and provides holistic workforce solutions for a large organization to be able to tap into talent that is often unseen or overlooked or misunderstood.
Yeah.
And so we have seen this flywheel effect of where we invested as a corporate social responsibility that created a commercial viable solution that the market was ready to adapt in due time. And it was all a journey in itself, which we call this a circle of innovation, right? And a flywheel effect that really accelerated the growth of our staffing portion of our business because we were very unique in how we drove and provided the solutions in itself.
Yeah. Are those placements of the neurodivergent individuals, are they across the nation or do you have a certain region that you work in?
So it's interesting that you asked this question, Donna, because there is this myth, right? When we think about neurodiversity and autism, immediately people in their minds will bucket them in a specific category or a specific industry or specific areas
Yeah.
of where they work. And it's very natural, right? It comes from our own environmental experiences and what we have seen. However, our experience has been quite different, and that is what we advocate for more. That we say that just like every individual is different, every individual with neurodiversity and autism is different. And there's
Yeah.
a wide scale of range of skill sets and talent that exist. And it's a matter of how we tweak our process. It's just a matter of how we design our recruiting methodologies and our ecosystem that really helps them to integrate into the working place and the workforce environment where the skill sets, I will say, where we have been very successful. Obviously, we started with IT, but we've also expanded quite a lot with the help of course, the large enterprises who give us the opportunity to prove that there's the skill sets that exist in commercial area, in light industrial, and manufacturing, in operations, in areas of marketing. So
Mhm.
within at Rangam, we have, I would say, about at least 40% of our workforce has some form of neurodiversity or autism, right? And we have
40% of your own
individuals,
workforce.
yes. And what I'll say is we have individuals in every division and every department. And that's what makes it really exciting. And that has created a very different culture
Yeah.
of empathy, productivity, and innovation in how we have drove innovation. So, for example, I'll give you an example today. An individual who is part of our Rangam Cares team, who's responsible for helping our consultants who are on assignments in
Hmm.
any areas of support or any challenges or anything that we can do as far as making their position in the role more comfortable. Being in the Rangam Cares team, when he saw what we were working on in terms of technology advancement and driving more unique solutions from on the recruitment life cycle, he came forward and he said, "Hey, I have an idea around how we can design AI and really improve our performance in the area of how we provide top talent and screen them." And he designed this AI screening tool in less than 3 months.
Wow.
And this is something where we said, sure, you have this idea, let's give it a shot. Let's have you, let's see what you can work on. And it has been an incredibly powerful AI, agentic AI tool that we have now piloted for our solution.
That's
And
great.
that goes into where many people feel a lot of anxiety and fear around AI. Is that going to take away my job?
Yeah.
Is that going to filter me out? And I always say AI is as good as what the process of their organization is and who they are.
Um,
So within our organization, all of our processes and our practices are very inclusive. And
yeah.
that's what's embedded into our technology. And that is where our main focus is. How can we be more inclusive? How can we tap into this talent? How can we drive the individual's skills and help them to bring forward and
Yeah,
ensure they're screened in versus screened out?
I love
And
that.
so our AI also is incorporates those basics, foundational processes and systems
Yeah.
that we already have within our organization to ensure that where how we are able to ensure that we are being inclusive versus exclusive, and having a process that might, and historically, Donna, I don't know if you're what how much you're familiar, but it's natural, right? Historically, in the recruitment methodology, it's all about shortlisting. It's all about, all
Mhm.
right, let's create criterias because you'll get thousands of resumes,
Yeah.
and how do we identify that right individual with the right skills? So you're honing in on those skills and certain keywords to really filter out some of the resumes. It's all based on what's written on paper.
Yeah.
However, what we're building is something where how do we drive passion, interest, and
Oh,
inclusion, and create a system that advocates more for their skills versus what's written on paper.
yeah. So many things are popping into my head, and I'm imagining what other CEOs might be thinking right now. I think how many WPO CEOs are saying, "Can you help me to recruit for my company?" I'm wondering, since you have 40% of your workforce who are neurodivergent, from an HR standpoint, does that change what your onboarding looks like? Do you need to make any exceptions or changes to how you're training or how you're mentoring
So,
people?
very good question, Donna, because the way that the we have created a guidebook around recruitment processes,
Okay.
and it is a universal design format consideration. So when we think about how should you design your onboarding system and structure, it's not designed to just keep a specific group of people in mind. It's designed so that when you think of a specific group of people and you create your practices around that, you will find that universal design applies to every individual that
Okay.
we. So I'll give you an example, right? Um, when physically the ramps were created, or even the revolving doors, right, were created. Initially, sometimes the ramps were created, I'll say, to help an individual in a wheelchair to be able to go up the ramp. But
Okay.
how often do we use it as individuals
Just right
when we have
walking.
luggages,
Uh-huh.
when we have heavy stuff to carry up the stairs and use those ramps?
Uh-huh.
So it's a very similar method, is what we say. It's a universal design. And essentially, when you adopt this universal design structure for your recruitment methodology, you are not just being inclusive of individuals with autism and neurodiversity, but you will find how you may tap into other talents that you often screened out because of that traditional method of whether if it's screening or onboarding and providing that support, bringing that clarity to the individual when you're onboarding someone. What is the role about? How? So a lot of these things are around specifics to making sure that you are being very specific and clear, and there isn't a major ambiguity around their role, responsibility, and their expectations.
Wow. That's a really good point. And the concept of universal design, now I'm going to dig into the look into that's just a different lens into seeing the world. Um,
Correct.
Rather than trying to make an exception for one person, how can we redesign the whole process in order just to be more inclusive across the board?
That's right. That's right.
Wow. So, okay. Um, I would imagine that this view into how you see the world and how you're seeing staffing, how you're placing people in roles led to the kind of growth that WPO recognized. Um, how did that growth impact how you lead, how you structured your operations? how you manage your team as your team started to grow. How did you manage that growth in a successful way?
So I will say that, like any other small business that is scaling and growing, our challenges were no different. Most important thing for us was keeping the culture of empathy. Empathy, our slogan is empathy drives
Hmm.
innovation.
Yeah.
Um, but what we have learned through our experience and our journey is as leaders, we have a responsibility to our organization, our employees, our customers, our candidates, and the the I will say there was a lot of lessons to be learned. And it was through the platform of WPO
Yeah.
where we did learn what are the systems, what are the processes, what are the engine, what, and I call that an engine.
Hmm.
What is the engine that you need to design to ensure that the growth that you have, you can sustain the growth and
Yeah.
continue along that line in the journey? And I will say we had a rapid growth during COVID, and we did have a point where we weren't ready. It was almost like flying the plane and designing the engine at the same time. And so we did have a little bit of a setback to say, okay, we acknowledge and we realize that we need to build the engine before we can actually fly the plane.
Yeah.
But I always say there's always lessons to be learned in every aspects of your
Hmm.
journey. And
Yeah.
it is those lessons that helps, and those lessons are important. And so philosophically, I always look at things in a way where it's not something that happened to me, but it happened for me
Yeah.
because I am being prepared for something that's coming in the horizon and in the future.
Yeah.
So just to in a nutshell, to answer your question, Donna, we didn't have the right recipe and we didn't have the right answers, but we learned along the way. We worked together. Communication was clearly important
Yeah.
for us to make sure we are communicating with our leadership and our organization, even through the roughest times with making toughest decisions. We needed to make sure that we were very clear about our goals, our mission, and our mission was not to be compromised. We were not ready to abandon our mission, is what I will say. But we were ready to build the muscles to help build the organization that can be ready for the growth that is ahead of us in the future. Um, what was what really I will say kept us going as founders and owners is the support we received from our leadership team. It's the support we received, understanding and support we received from our organization, all of our team members. And that is something I will say I'm very proud of because it clearly shows that we have incredible, passionate individuals working within our organization that have similar aligned mission. And our mission is to accelerate meaningful employment for everyone. And when everyone within your organization is fully aligned, is where you can continue to rough through those tough journeys that comes in your road through your road that you're traveling across.
Right. That alignment is really key. When we're
Yeah,
in an aligned place, yeah, we're stronger, more able to shoulder change, growth, challenges.
right.
I love what you say about accelerating meaningful employment. When people are in a job where they're using their best gifts, they're recognized, they're heard, they're seen, it makes all the difference in their
Right.
engagement.
That's right. That's right. And,
I,
and what I will say is what we've learned quite a lot is the system and the process that you have at a certain scale and the size is very different than the system and the process that you need for the when you're growing and scaling your business.
yeah,
And those are the areas where when you're affiliated with organizations like WPO,
Uh-huh.
you get access to those types of resources, that type of network that helps you to see that path which you are traveling across.
Yeah, it's so true. How long have you been a member of WPO?
Since 2014. And
Okay,
so it's been an incredible journey. I would say it's been almost 12 years, but it definitely feels more than 12 years. And that's as much as I have benefited from being part of this organization. And
nice.
so I am serving on the board right now. So it gives me great pleasure to be able be able to provide and give back to the organization that has given so much for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. Well, we've benefited. It's a great story to share on so many different levels, and um, I love that WPO has been a part of that engine for your growth. This is why WPO is founded for second stage CEOs. We get to a stage of growth where we say, okay, now what?
That's right. That's right.
And this is why we have the sisterhood.
That's right.
And I love how that works, and the fact that you were able to spend a few minutes to share your story with us. Now, because WPO takes a holistic approach to success, I have to ask you, how have you maintained equanimity and balance in your personal life in order to field the leadership in your company?
Um, Balance is something that, I will say it it's purely dependent on what your priorities are
Hmm.
during the stage of your life where you are. And when you know what is important to you and you're able to prioritize, then you can definitely create the balance. And what I mean by that is it's clearly important for us to ensure that we have mental health wellness
Hmm.
that can help us to stay grounded and focused, especially in areas when you are running an organization and driving a mission. And if you know what matters and helps you as an individual, and every individual is different. And for
Yeah.
me, I will say, um, my people, and I call them my people in my environment, in my community, my circle, are very, very important to me. That time that I spend, my friends, family, WPO sisters, that provides me with a fuel of rejuvenation, energy that helps me to also bring clarity when there's confusion or uncertainty of feeling where I don't know what the solutions are and how am I going to get there and what are we going to do and how are we going to navigate through this environment and these external factors that we're experiencing and internal factors. How do I create? And it is that I would say it is ensuring that I spend that equal time that helps me to bring clarity to help drive solutions as an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and the business owners for our organization. And in a nutshell, if I were to just work, 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 and just be only working focused only on the business, it probably wouldn't make me a happy person and
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't benefit our organization at all. And I know that for myself. And so, and for some people, it works. Some people, they are, they work and they're up and they're in their optimum performance by just staying focused only on one area. But for me, I definitely need my people to ensure that I can continue that success, how I define success as for our organization.
Yeah, well, research says that we are relationship oriented. People mean a
Mhm.
lot to our sense of meaning and purpose. I
That's
I
right.
love I love that focus, and I love your focus on mental health and wellness, being grounded. I have a whole talk on being grounded. It's it's
That's
so
right.
important in just creating the emotional baseline to be able to lead with intention. So thank you so
That's right.
much for sharing that picture.
Thank
I
you.
could talk to you forever, but I did promise that we wouldn't go more than 20 or 30 minutes. Is there one
Appreciate
last
that.
thing that you want to say to fellow CEOs, whether they're in WPO or considering WPO?
Yeah, one thing I will say is, um, as female and women entrepreneur, there's no bigger power than sisterhood.
Ah,
We we cry together, we laugh together, we energize each other.
yeah,
And so those who find their place and their I would say their circle of their network, wherever it is, it's important to find that network,
yeah.
whether if it's with WPO or whether if it's somewhere else, but it's important to find that network that continues to empower you, continues to become that pillar of strength, continues to tell you you can do this, and demonstrates and shows you that it's okay to fail, and here's how we can support you, and here's how you can get up and continue to move forward. And so that is a very powerful thing, I would say. Without that kind of a network, I don't think we could get anywhere from where we are today.
It's true. It's true. I love the way you said that. There's no bigger power than sisterhood.
That's right.
Very well said. Thank you, Hetal, for sharing your
Well,
story today. Really appreciate
thank
it.
you, Donna. Thank you very much.